What is going on, Corner Talk family? It is so good to be back with you guys for another episode. I hope that you guys have been blessed by the last several episodes that we've put out. Real quick, if you guys are listening to this on Apple or Spotify, wherever you are consuming this podcast from, we actually got a YouTube channel. So I want to encourage you guys to head over to our YouTube channel. You can search up Corner Talk HT. You guys will be able to find the videos of our podcast right then and there. And of course, if you guys have missed out on any at all, make sure to go back, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. Invite a friend, share it with someone, because you never know who this may impact. So without further ado, I want to jump into this episode today, and I'm excited. It's someone who's been on the podcast before. He's friend, he's family, and I'm excited to reintroduce my guest for the day. We got Pastor Tyler Wooten with us once again.
Come on, man. Always honored to be here with the Worship Center, with you, Pastor Hunter. Love the family here.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what God does with this podcast, man.
Yeah,
this
bro.
is an incredible resource for many people out there all around the world. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you and your team.
Bro, this team, they pulled it off, like the guys behind the cameras and everything. They're solid, especially like with this weekend. And so for, depending on whenever you consume this content, whether that's years from now or that's 2 days, whatever it is, we're actually in the middle of conference season. And so tonight, like Pastor Tyler, you are kicking off the student conference tonight. You showed up yesterday.
Yeah.
You came, hung out with us at Young Adults. Now, this morning, you are recording a podcast. Tonight, you're preaching. But all week long, bro, the devil's been after you.
Yeah, man. That's what he does. First Peter says, don't be surprised as if something strange were happening to you when you go through, different trials. And so it's all good, man. To me, it's just an indicator that he's doing something, that the Lord is about to do something. So I'm so glad I came to Young Adults last night, man. You shut it down as you always do. Right. Glory to God. And I was excited to just be in the room and receive ministry last night. So thanks for having me and my guy Tristan, who's with me on this trip.
Yeah, shout out Tristan. You guys don't see him right now, but that is the man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah,
himself.
He's single too. So,
hey,
and he can preach, and he's swaggy and all this stuff. So you can just go ahead and find him.
If you're interested, I know you can't see him, but just take our word for it. Slide up in the DMs. Put in the I'm just kidding. Put in the comment section. No,
we take donations at Pastor Hunter's Cash App for dates.
Bro,
dates for Tristan. So
whatever, man. No, last night it's good, bro. And I think even with what you're saying, and I'm not saying that I did this, I think God showed up for sure last night. But I think as pastors, especially, like it's conference season, like so quickly do we get burnt out because we spend so much time ministering that we don't get ministered to. Mm-hmm. And I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but I remember there was a point in time when the suicide rate for pastors was insanely high.
Absolutely.
Like that one-on-one time that we get with the Lord, like that is vital.
It's everything, bro. It's breath. It's oxygen to a believer. It's oxygen to, a minister, man. I mean, we spend our lives as kingdom people, pastors, not pastors, but as kingdom people, we pour. I mean, that's the honor and joy of our lives, that we pour, but we cannot neglect time in the prayer closet. We cannot neglect time with the Lord. I mean, it's everything. And I'm sure we've all heard this quote a time or two, but there have been plenty of seasons of my ministerial career over the past 15 years that I've been doing the work of the Lord, but missing the Lord of the work.
Oh, come on.
And it's easy to do. It's really easy to do. I'm reminded of the woman with the issue of blood in the Gospels. There was a crowd pressing around Jesus, and the New King James would use the word throng. And so when the woman made her way through the crowd and touched the border of his garment, he asked, "Who touched me?" And I just imagined in my mind's eye the disciples saying, "What do you mean, Lord, who touched you? There are plenty of people thronging you." And the Lord was like, "No, I didn't ask who thronged me." Throng means to crowd, to press up against, to brush up against. He said, "No, I asked who touched me." That word touched means fasten oneself to. So I've spent many services. Like last night, I could have just arrived at Young Adult service here at the Worship Center and just thronged him, but not actually touched the border of his garment.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure as a minister, as a kingdom leader, that when I walk into a room, when there's a corporate anointing flowing, the glory of God is present, that I encounter him, not just kind of say what's up.
Yeah. I mean, so quickly we get busy, and I think this happened to me the other day, and in my ministry career, I've never had this happen to me. And it was actually writing the message that I spoke last night. But I got writer's block, like real bad. And I remember sitting in my office, and of course, like I had a really, really hard week the week before. And I'm going to be honest, like with me, if you're not intentional with that time with the Lord, like so quickly do you end up pursuing what you think is the right fix,
Right,
and
right.
what's going to help you out, and you miss out on God really being able to comfort you in that time. And I don't think it's something that we do intentionally or purposefully. I think us as humans, you know, I said it last night in the message, whenever we panic or we grow afraid, we reach for what's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes reaching for the Lord, we know that it's going to challenge us in our growth. And we say the right things, we say the holy things, we say the godly things, but in all actuality, does our heart line up with what our mouth is speaking? Like, I can say that I want this and I want that and I want God to move, but on the inside, how many of us are really like, oh Lord, like, please don't do that, you know, please don't stretch me, please don't do this. And I think ultimately, like, what it comes down to is just because you haven't experienced it yet doesn't mean that it's not normal. Right? Like, we talked about that last night, and this kind of, even the way that we introed this, I think it comes back around to creating healthy rhythms, you know, because so often, I mean, you look at the Egyptians, or the Israelites, whenever they were in Egypt, and they were enslaved for 430 years. Then this guy Moses shows up on the scene. Homeboy cannot talk. He's got a stutter. I mean, he's like, hey, can you release my, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you're expecting these enslaved people.
Sounded like the water boy.
Mama said. But you're expecting these people, like, to have confidence in a leader who obviously doesn't have confidence in himself to complete the assignment that the Lord gave him. So not only are you asking these guys to step out of what's been their normal, like, you're asking them to follow a leader who's not even confident in himself. So altogether, like, your normal's getting messed up. And we said in the scripture last night, it's in Exodus 14. As soon as they get out, it's like, why would you do this to us? Like, why would you bring us out here? Didn't you know that there's more? Isn't there enough graves in all of Egypt?
Right.
And the sarcasm hits. And what's crazy is that these Egyptian, or I don't know why I keep saying Egyptians, but these Israelites would much rather live in Egypt or die in Egypt.
Yeah, in bondage.
Than live in uncertainty.
Exactly.
And
right.
again, when we panic, it says in the Bible, it says in the scripture, they panicked. And when we panic and whenever we hit a wall, we immediately reach for what's familiar. So in our rhythms, if your rhythm is you're going to have a messy car, you're going to have a messy house, chances are you're going to be messy emotionally, you're going to be messy spiritually. There's no way, no possible way that if you are messy in the physical, that your relationship with God is going smooth.
It can affect it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, God, from the very beginning, brought order where there was chaos. He specializes in that. He's a God of order. He's a God of clarity. He's a God of rhythm, of patterns, you know, of structure. And it is absolutely vital to have personal rhythms, whether, you know, I mean, and all of your parts, you know, emotions, your mental game, your physical, your health from the inside out, having rhythms, of course, primarily spiritually. But you're right. I mean, I've seen that in my own life when I start getting messy in other areas. Well, for me, it's really just an overflow that I've gotten a little bit messy in my mind or my emotions. Yeah. And like, for example, like I'm self-aware enough to know my personal indicators. So when my desk begins to get messy, especially when the Post-it notes come out,
Bro,
I'm like, oh, hang on now. Let me go back to prayer and say, God, search my heart. Like, reveal to me what I need to adjust in my life. And then when my physical health gets messy, when I don't have a good rhythm in, you know, for example, in the gym or in movements, then it really does overflow. And it affects my prayer life. I mean, there is a direct correlation for me between the two. And I'm usually a couple good workouts away, a couple good car cleans away, you know, a good rest day away from me getting recalibrated. But it does begin with self-awareness, for sure.
Bro, I think, like, for me, when I got that writer's block, I mean, I am sitting here and I got convicted. You know, I'm reading the scripture. I'm scrolling through. I'm flipping through the pages. Like, God, would you please just show me something? Like, I got to get a message written. I got people that are depending on me. Like, Lord, I've got to go out there. I've got to figure out what I'm going to preach.
Right.
And I'm going through and I can't find anything. So I start, I get some other books and I can't find anything in those books. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to preach. And immediately what the Lord convicted me of was, you came to me when you needed me to bail you out. But if you'll learn to come to me whenever things are already getting chaotic, not whenever they blow up, but when things just start off a little messy.
Yeah.
When you wake up and you don't make your bed, spiritually, when you wake up, you don't make your bed. It's a little thing, but it sets your whole entire day. You're setting the tone. And man, I repented to the Lord. And as soon as I repented to the Lord, it began to flow again.
Yeah.
It began to flow, but it came with right alignment. So have you ever noticed, like, in your life, whenever you get going, and you don't take that real good, like, time, like, we spend time with the Lord to get the, I think it happens a lot as preachers, right? But we spend time with the Lord to get the message, right? But we don't spend time with the Lord to get him. So have you ever noticed, like, I notice, like, with me, bro, over time, whenever I get going, I don't get sick ever, but I know whenever I'm starting to get sick, it's due to a lack of rest. It's due to a lack of healthy rhythms because I got so busy doing everything and being everything for everyone else that, like, I forgot him in the middle of it. Have you ever noticed that in your life?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it is fascinating because we would counsel other people to spend time with him for him. And then sometimes we allow ourselves to get so busy because sometimes we ain't got to be as busy as we are.
No.
Because we're just simply out of order, or we're trying to put last season's rhythm on this season. Life isn't about finding a balance. It's about acknowledging the rhythm of the season. And you got to be fluid like water and adjust according to the season.
Come on.
You got to go to the next track. The next track, the next song, the next season has a different tempo. It has a bigger bridge. It has a softer chorus. You got to flow with the rhythms of the season. But yes, I've absolutely found that out. Like, I am most effective in leadership, in life, and of course in platform ministry when I minister out of the overflow of essentially what God is doing in me. Right. So I do my best to try to work the word that's been working in me.
Yeah.
And so before we go to God for another sermon, we got to make sure that we go to God for him. God, pour out your spirit on me. Yeah. Not this, not necessarily only this page that I'm, constructing the sermon, but God, I just want you. And out of that place of overflow is where we are most effective in life and in ministry.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed in life, though, because I know so that's your thing. You're doing a lot of leadership coaching right now, helping people to develop healthy rhythms. Have you ever noticed, though, in life, like, as seasons change, so do your rhythms? Like, and does that change bother you? Because for me, like, I'm a person I'm a creature of habit. I park in the same spot every day. I don't have an issue going to eat at the same places a lot of the time. I listen to the same music. So, like, when it comes to you're in a different season, maybe the Lord transitioned you positions or whatever, how do you adapt to that, knowing it's like sometimes I feel like right when we get our rhythm going and our rhythm is good and it's working, it's like, all right, we're going to shift gears and we're going to go this way. So how do you maintain a place in your head and in your heart and in your spirit to embrace the discomfort of change?
Yeah. That's a great point. And I think a lot of that does go back to what you ministered on last night with the moment you begin to get familiar or comfortable or like settle into a norm. God says, no, I want to stretch you and I want to grow you. I got some other things prepared.
Yeah.
And you even just said it last night. You can't go from A to Z. You have to go through B, C, D, E, F. Like you have to go through that to get the tools in you and to get the toxic stuff or the things that don't fit the next season out of you.
Yeah.
So it's not just an equipping, it's also a purging. And I'm grateful that God didn't give me Z too soon because I would crush it or it would crush me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just the goodness of the Father. But yeah, I mean, there are different things. I mean, this could be a whole workshop right here, but there are different elemental items, essential items that we got to hold on to, but the timing of those things change and the expression of those things change. So there is no excuse for me, no matter what season I'm in, to have a rhythm of personal health, like fitness, etc. But it just might, like it used to look like for me 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But my business has expanded, so now I'm training a client at 5:30 in the morning. So now does it give me an excuse, a justifiable reason to say, well, now I can't work out at all? No. There are still things that I have to flow again with the rhythm of the season. So that means now I have to adjust what my workouts look like, maybe where it looks like. You know, I have to adjust what time I do my personal workouts, etc. So it's important that we take, and especially if you know that you've transitioned. Sometimes you just wake up and you're in a new season. You're like, hang on now. But especially if you know that you're walking into a transitional season, it's important to take some time to work on it before you get in it.
Yeah.
And so like my wife and I, at the turn of every year, for example, I love New Year's. I think it's a great time to recalibrate what you can, but it's not the only recalibration you have to do because there can be 6 seasons in 1 year, right? Personal seasons, that is, not, autumn, spring, summer. But we do what's called we call it a vision trip.
Yeah.
We take a few days, just get before the Lord and just kind of recalibrate what we can, but every couple months or so, I mean, you need to be doing those kind of check-ins as well. You can't just do it once a year and then try to ride out that rhythm. Like I built a strategy for the year. I have, a clear plan for the year, and then I take that and say, okay, Lord, now let me submit that to you. Right. And so, there are just things you're going to have to adjust. And I've met several people in ministry. Let me just talk about what we do in pastoring. They're trying to live the season of, 2019 in the year or in the day of January or February or the winter time of 2025. And you have to adjust. Like the sons of Issachar, they understood the times. They understood the season, right? I want to pray for wisdom for the season. God, give me wisdom for right now, the season that I'm in. Help me look ahead and dream and plan. We got to have a plan and then submit it to the Lord. Then he'll direct our steps, right? But we have to be, again, not just flexible because even a rubber band can break, but we got to be fluid like water and flow with the rhythms of the season. Yeah. And so like 5 months ago, my wife and I, my wife did most of the work, of course. We had a baby. Yeah. And my rhythm, it had to change. Otherwise, I would just be an absent, burnt out father. Yeah. Right. And so I had to shift. I had no choice. But God has used this season to give me insights on greater strategy for my own life, greater insight on his heart and his will for my life, and has grown me into my character and developed me. And some of that's just part of the sanctification process, becoming more like Jesus. And again, it comes back down to the goodness of the Father, just wanting the best for us because he knows what is best for us. But we have to take time. That's why prayer is so essential. And not just prayers of petition and where you just ask for things. I'm talking about prayers like, God, speak to me. God, shift in me what you need to shift in me. Purge from me what you need to purge from me. Give me your plan for my life, your will for this season, right? And so every day having that conversation with God, I think going back to what we talked about earlier, we just make those times with him negotiable. Yeah. Right? It's so fascinating to me that with someone in our church, we won't move a meeting, but with God, we'll move it real quick.
Bro, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So it has to be one of those concrete things that almost at all costs, If something goes up, if an emergency comes up in your allotted time and space for prayer, then of course you're with him all throughout the day, and you take an allotted amount of time later on.
Right.
But having a time and a space every day, like rhythm, where you meet with God, it is absolutely so essential to a believer. That should be, even Paul said, physical training is of some good. It is good. We need to steward our temples, but he goes on to say, but the spiritual training and development is all the more vital. And so that's where we start. But going back to those elemental or those essential items, like here we are, we're traveling for a few days. That doesn't mean that I just vacate from all rhythm.
Yeah.
Now, vacation, you don't even vacate from rhythm, but because rhythm doesn't just necessarily speak of the practical things like the same playlist or the same phone call in the morning, or the same Starbucks that you might run through. Like those are practical things that help us. I'm a creature of habit as well.
Yeah.
I would like to pack my bag the same way every day, walk in the same route. I'll build out my day according to that kind of rhythm. But like when we're on the road, I don't have my local coffee shop.
Yeah.
I don't have my, in-person good morning to my family. But that doesn't mean that I still don't go get coffee. This is a silly example, but that doesn't mean I still don't call my family and say good morning. Just because I don't have my prayer chair in my house at my address doesn't mean that I still don't wake up and spend time with him. That doesn't mean that I still don't invest in friendships and relationships. That doesn't mean that I go out and just eat, a Big Mac all day, every day, and then go back to healthy living, healthy eating. There are still these elemental items that we have to make sure that adjusts with us in whatever rhythm the season is, and it's just, people just they get overwhelmed, they get out of rhythm really fast. And then I see just unhealthy leaders, and I've went through seasons in the past where I've gotten unhealthy because I haven't adjusted, and so we just got to make sure that we are flowing with the rhythm of the season.
Yeah. The thing that you said that I love the most was the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I think that's so valid and so important in life, in business, in leadership. We talked a little bit about it last night, a little bit with Tristan too, was just in the fact of so we have our staff here at TWC, we have them create a time block, because I want to know that you're being wise with your time, being disciplined, you're making the most out of it. If you don't make your schedule will make you.
100%.
If you don't sit here and learn how to say no, you are going to burn out so quick.
You'll live reactive, and it'll go into every area of your life, and you don't want to live in that place because production will actually, it won't occur according to purpose and potential.
Right.
You'll just be reacting to the seemingly urgent demands of everyone. There's always going to be a text. There's always going to be an email. There's always going to be a crisis. There's always going to be a demand on your life, and it is an honor to be a kingdom leader and to serve others. But if you ain't right, ain't nothing you touch going to be right.
100%.
Bad English, good truth, right? They taught me growing up in Sunday school, to have, and I misunderstood this. They taught me, and I like this first concept of this, to have joy in life, Joy. You got to put Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. And I get the concept. How I interpreted it now as a leader looking back was that I neglect the why part. Yeah. That whole concept, that acronym, that principle is not to neglect the why part. Because if the why part yourself ain't right, then your relationship with Jesus ain't going to be right. Your relationship with others ain't going to be right. Therefore, you will have no joy.
Right. Bro. Mic drop.
Hey, shout out to Sunday school for 6-year-olds.
Dude, you know what? Let me tell you, let's even on that, I know it's not the topic, but I think sometimes, we said it last night, we look for the most complicated things, and we say when it's complicated, well, that must be God. God is not a complicated God. It was as simple as saying, let there be light.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that, sometimes I feel like we sit here and we look for the most complicated things when really we just need to go back to these Sunday school principles.
That's exactly right. He's a sacrificial God.
Yeah.
He's a God of obedience and cost. But it's always for our benefit, for our good. But he's sacrificial, but he's not complicated.
100%.
Right? He is very simple. You know, his word is very, very simple. It's layered. It's revelatory. It's meaty. It has revelation that outlasts time.
Yeah.
However, it is very simple. That's where Naaman went wrong. When he walked up to the prophet's house and they came out of the house and they said, go dip in the Jordan 7 times. And he cussed, fussed, kicked up dust, because he was like, no, because he wanted something complicated. No, just go dip 7 times. And then, eventually he did, which is why we know the story.
Right.
And he was healed of all leprosy. But you're exactly right. And I loved that truth last night. And it was something that people needed to hear. I love that it was in a young adult setting, because we live in a day and age where everyone's trying to deconstruct their faith. And it's just like this whole complicated approach to faith. And it's like, no, God is very simple. He loves you. He speaks. He asks obedience of you. He wants to bless you. He's for you. He's not against you. Right. It's a real complicated truth. I mean, it's a real simple truth.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, let me ask you this then, if you wouldn't mind. But let's say you were meeting one-on-one. You're doing a coaching with someone, and they come to you, and this person, I'll just give you the profile. So they're in their 20s. They've never had healthy rhythms. They're wanting to finally get their life together. Things are messy. Things are chaotic. They've never been a person of discipline. What would you say are the necessary steps in order to create healthy rhythms?
Excellent.
Knowing that I'm on the outside of already having bad rhythms.
Yeah.
My day's never consistent. I wake up sometimes early. I wake up sometimes late. I don't have a consistent job. I kind of just do whatever I want, take the day as it comes. So what would you say to that person? This is your first few steps in figuring out this is your rhythms.
Yeah. Do they want change?
I would say that they want change, but the idea and the sight of change kind of scares them.
Got it. So they're coming for maybe first steps.
Yeah.
On like, I have this dream or maybe even a lofty fantasy of change. I know maybe I need to change, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite convinced I need it yet. Yep. Because first and foremost, they need to see, one, that they need it. You need to see that they actually want it. So you got to lead them to the place of seeing the need for change, because a lot of people will say, well, what's the point? I'm good. The Lord will provide.
Yeah.
And yes, he will, but he can't steer a parked car.
Come on.
Right. And so, I love when Jesus would consistently ask, what do you want me to do for you? It's like he never asked a question that he didn't already know an answer to, right? But he wanted to know, are you self-aware enough? Like, do you really want change? Like, that's why God asked Adam, where are you? God knew where Adam was. He wanted Adam to see where Adam was. Yeah. Self-awareness question. So are you self-aware enough to know that you need change? And 2, what do you want out of life? I was just in a meeting last week with an individual, young family, and their whole thing is, well, gotta provide, but they're not putting work in. Yeah. They're not putting, what I mean by work is obedient steps in.
Come on.
And so I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and let me ask you this question. If you did the same broken rhythm you're doing now for 3 more years, would you be closer to or further away from your dream? Well, I mean, outside of God providing, no. Outside of you doing the work, but and they're like, well, I guess I'll be further away. And it's just a little bitty adjustment, right? Like we got on a plane yesterday and, the pilot adjusted the nose of the plane by however many small degrees. We wouldn't end up in Lubbock. We would be in Albuquerque. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just little movements. It's about trajectory. God told me last year, he said, Tyler, your responsibility is trajectory, rhythms, patterns, disciplines, standards. And my responsibility, he said, his responsibility is timing, right? So
that's good.
So I would sit down and I would see, are you aware where you are right now? If you continue to do the same thing you're doing, would you be closer to or further away? Well, if it's further away and I've identified that you really want it, now let's begin to establish some rhythms. Some people can go cold turkey from apathy, but most people need little wins by little wins, little adjustments. Like what I used to try to do was completely rebuild someone's life and plan and say, do this time, do this at that time. When they've been living a life, they're sleeping in until 10, their health rhythms all out of whack. They're excited the first 10 days of January because they got a special deal at the local gym, but there's no rhythm. So, yeah, man. I mean, so going from there, so like, hey, bro, let's start here, and then I will hold you accountable. I will check in with you consistently,
Right.
and then but as pastors, and kingdom coaches, I mean, we got to be almost committed to the process with them a little bit, to an extent,
Sure,
to a degree. There needs to be a system built around that, but establishing little wins, and then celebrating those wins. You replicate what you celebrate, right? So as a leader, you're kind of guiding them through, and then you can really get into, some major moves, major pattern shifts, because our purpose being reached it's determined by the patterns that we implement. And so, but the main thing is I need to know if you're aware and what do you really want, because you can tell me you want it, but if you're not doing anything about it, it's just a fantasy.
Come on.
With no plan, right? A goal with no plan is really just a fantasy. It's this thing that this idea sounds great. I want this. Don't tell me you want it if you're not doing anything.
Exactly.
Right? So want is such a loose term that we throw out there. It's like I've told people, and I've told myself this too. I mean, I speak back into a mirror, but I'm like, hey, bro, what do you want? And man, I want promotion at my job. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You're disrespectful, dishonorable to your boss. You're not a good team leader. You're selfish. All you care about is you. This raise is only going to affect you. You're not even thinking about people around you or the kingdom. You're not making the moves. You're not being held accountable. You're not covered in this. You don't want this. It's just some fantasy, or you saw it on some podcast and thought it was a great idea. And so if you tell me you want it, then I'm going to speak to you as if somebody who really wants that. And that's where we can do some deep work. Guys like Tristan. Tristan's coming to me saying, hey, man, what do I need to shift in me? And he'll go put the work in, and he can take because that's just his character. He's humble. He's a kingdom guy. He's like APT, man. He goes, correct me, coach me, rebuke me, just man, be honest with me, be clear with me, and so that's the kind of relationship. And I do the same thing with leaders in my life, man. If you see anything, like I thrive in a real-time adjustment.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I understand not everybody's going to approach it that way from the beginning. You got to be a little bit more long-suffering with those people, and that's okay. But that's where, like Tristan, I mean, I could probably rebuild his entire rhythm, and he sticks to it. That's just because of who he is. Yeah. But there are some people, and it's okay. It's just part of the process that you got to give them just little by little, and then celebrate those wins, et cetera. But I would go through those essential items like your health, your family, your pursuit, of course, first and foremost, of the Lord, your service in the house of God, your character at work, these things that shouldn't waver depending on what season you're in.
Right. I think that's vital. I think, I met a guy several months ago. I went to Austin, Texas, and there's this church down there, City Reach, phenomenal church. They're doing some great things down there. Shout out City Reach if you're in the Austin area. But there's this pastor down there. He's a worship pastor. His name is Chris Jack. And Pastor Chris he's absolutely amazing guy. I loved him. We've been able to build a really, really cool friendship with him, and it's been solid. But one of the things that I love that he did with his family was he created a list of core values for his family.
Exactly right.
And what I love about that was it set boundaries for the family so that if we start getting off track, we can figure out where in these core values did it not line up
exactly right
with where we're at right now.
Yeah.
But if you can't decide the core values for your life, the vision, the mission, you don't know where you want to go, you're going to find yourself, you don't have any boundaries.
Yeah.
You're going to find yourself all over the place, and you're going to be getting frustrated with other people. And the reality of it is vision does not just come whenever you're trying to build a business. Vision comes first in your life. In order to build a good, healthy life, you got to have a vision for where you want to go in life.
100%. First and foremost with you.
I mean, it starts there. Like, I would be willing to bet that's the same thing with you, Jaylee, Dominion, Valor, all those, your family of saying, look, for the Wooten family, this is who we are.
That's right.
When your boys get older and they're getting ready to go to school, like, listen, you're not just a representative of yourself. You're a representative of me and your mom and this family. You're representative of the Wooten family name.
That's right.
And so it's like when you go out for us, we're representatives of not just TWC, not just Oaks Church, but we're representatives of Christ.
That's right.
And nowadays, what's really, really sad is because Christian people have not gotten healthy rhythms, we're on the verge of becoming the biggest religious cult the world has ever seen. That if you don't look like us, sound like us, act like us, then don't come near us. You know? Which is a poor representation of who Jesus is.
That's right.
You know, religion was created by man, but relationship was created by God.
Very true.
And I think that if we can develop these healthy rhythms, and what I love about it, Pastor Tyler, and what you said is you've not brought up like a whole lot of spiritual rhythms, because I believe that having these good, healthy physical rhythms will create good, healthy spiritual rhythms. Is that accurate? Is that fair to say that, of course, yes, I know you got to be in relationship with Christ and wanting to pursue him, but is it fair to say that if I can get this right over here, then this situation and this blow up and this mess over here, it might start to get a little bit better? Is that fair?
Yeah, I believe so, because you have an inner man at work, and sometimes mess over here can paint a bigger picture over here. Sometimes order over here can affect this order over here. And so it's we don't live in a way, we don't just put on masks every day and just we act excellent here. Like Daniel was distinguished not because he put on excellence as a mask. It said that an excellent spirit was in him.
Come on.
It was a part of him. Therefore, he was distinguished. And I love that you brought up the vision mission thing, because that's the whole concept of my company, my coaching company. Is vision is essentially where you want to go, what you want to accomplish. Mission is why you're doing what you're doing. You know, we talked about this before in a podcast. Strategy is how and when, and values is who you are. Who you are. So you're exactly right. It's like, hey, boys, my two sons, and my wife, and I mean, we hold each other to this. Like, hey, this is who we are. At the end of the day, when all the stuff is shut down, this is the core of our being, what we value the most. Right. It's our guide. It's our deepest convictions. But yes, I mean, that's something I didn't understand when I first got into faith and in ministry, because honestly, it was pretty close in time the way my storyline works. And I thought it was just like all service, all platform, but I was falling apart in secret, right? I didn't have necessarily a prayer closet. I had a closet that I would go hide in. Yeah. It was my dysfunctional, because it was like, and that's where I encountered in a beautiful way many years ago, the God of the shadows. Man, he's with me in those moments. And he taught me order and structure. I was out of rhythm in my finances, in my health, in my friendships, in my personal prayer times. I was just out of order. But God, again, is a God of order, and he wants us to flow and operate in this sense of calmness. I mean, a lot of my anxiety in the past that I've experienced was because my life got out of order, and I was just living in all these, from this diagnosis to this diagnosis, but it was simply, at the end of the day, it was on me. I didn't adjust. I didn't restructure. I didn't reorder. I didn't get on a healthy rhythm. And I can't blame anyone else. I can't blame the church for it.
Right.
I can't call it church hurt. Wow. I can't call it because my buddy didn't text me. I can't call it because, my wife and I got in a little bit of a debacle. It was on me. And because I was perishing because of lack of vision, lack of strategy. And then I forgot why I was doing what I was doing. I forgot who I was there for a little while years ago. And so if you just work kind of those four pillars, it's like a table. This chair needs 4 legs. If it had 3 legs, it could probably be structured in a way, balancing the weight where I can still sit on it and not fall over. But the best structures have 4 corners, 4 legs, 4 pillars. So vision, mission, strategy, value. Starting with yourself, like you said, that's one of the greatest points in this conversation so far. Beginning with yourself, and then letting that flow over into your organizations.
Yeah. It starts with you. I
always
think
starts with you.
One of the greatest things that I've even learned from you, you said this a while back, but that we're not called to be a thermostat. We don't read the temperature of the room. We're called to be the ones to set the temperature of the room. right? You walk in, and you should never have to walk in and tell everyone you're the leader. If you have to tell everyone you're the leader, you're not the leader.
Absolutely not.
You know, if you're having to walk in and beat your chest and all, you're not the leader.
No.
Like, but if you can create a healthy rhythm in the sense of boldness and confidence, you walk in, no matter where you walk in, whether you are the leader or not, and not in a jerk way or in a mean way, in a rude way, but when you walk in with your head held high, your shoulders pulled back, your back is straight, and you walk in just by the way you carry yourself, people should be able to look at you and say, oh, that's someone I want to know. Right. You know, that's someone who got healthy rhythms. That's someone who's got a good, healthy life. You know what I love is when people get in my truck and they don't have to move anything to sit in my truck.
I love that.
I like whenever people come to my house and you don't have to move anything in my house to be able to sit down. You say, man, this is clean. I love when you get to come to my church and you get to see, man, this is what church should be like. This is like, you said something last night that really blessed me. In the fact of you were sharing with Tristan about TWC just being a very honorable church in the way that we do things. But what I love, and not saying it because it's my dad or anything like that, but it comes from the top down. And if you don't create healthy rhythms at the top, whatever you have at the top is slowly going to leak every other area of your life, of your business, of your ministry. And ultimately, the top for us is our heart. So whatever's in your heart is going to leak to every other person, to every other area in your life. And then you're ruining relationships. You're bleeding on people who don't deserve it. Like, I think that's really the essence of why healthy rhythms are so important.
That's exactly right.
And the other side of it, too. If you are struggling with depression, you're struggling with anxiety, but your rhythm is I'm going to wake up, I'm going to lay in bed all day, I'll get up, go get food, but then I'm going to go back home and I'm going to lay in bed. Number one, let me say this. Your feelings are valid in where you're at. But just because they're valid, that's not a valid excuse to stay where you're at.
That's exactly right.
You know? But if I can create the rhythm, half the battle that we fight when it comes to getting healing, you're not always going to feel it, but just because you don't feel it doesn't mean you can't believe it. And sometimes you have to believe it until it comes, right? I got to believe that I'm joyful. Until I feel it, I'm going to believe that I'm joyful.
That's right.
I mean, starting your day off. For me, bro, I learned this back in high school from my football coach. And he would always tell us we'd get there early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, we're starting practice. But the very first thing that he would ask us before we go out for the day, he would say, did everyone in here make your bed? And there's some people who are like, well, no. And he'd make you run a lap. And the reason saying, if you can't be disciplined in the small things, then you'll never be disciplined in the big things. So it starts in the small.
Bed.
It takes stewarding. Stewardship. Stewardship goes a long way. Stewardship should be a part of your rhythm. That should be part of your finances. That should be a part of your relationships. That should be a part of your house, your car, like all of these different things that if you can learn to steward well what God's already given you. Maybe the reason we're not seeing the abundance that we want to see, the overflow, is because we can't even create healthy rhythms with what God has already given us.
Exactly right.
You know?
Stewardship's huge, man. I mean, anything that you've been entrusted, I mean, if you have it, and you didn't make yourself have it under your own strength, and it was a blessing from God, we're called to steward it. And not just manage, but to lead it, to grow it.
That's good.
You know, management is the essence of maintaining what is.
Yep.
But true leadership is moving what is.
Come on.
Right? Whether it's a product or a person, organization or organism, it's to move it forward. So God says, you know, I'm going to give you this seed. You got to water it. You got to grow it, you know, and if it's an organization or a department or even an individual and you transition the organization, department, and or individual to someone else, you want to transition that, you know, leaving it better than you found it kind of thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just good stewardship, man. Like, God bless me with this. I'm going to take care of it. Kingdom people are excellent people.
Right.
I'm not saying we strive for perfection because that's not realistic. There's only one perfect one. But we do operate in the sense of excellence, and that's just one of our values.
Yeah.
We have the true conviction that excellence, it honors God, and it reaches all. You know,
right?
Mediocrity reaches some.
Yeah.
I don't just want to reach some.
Come on.
I want to reach all, right? So the four corners of your lot, four corners of your property, needs to be excellent, which is why I love TWC. It is an absolutely excellent facility. You can tell that that's part of your values, and implemented values become culture.
Yeah.
And it truly, like you said, leaks from the top down.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love the culture of this house. And so when I'm telling him, I didn't pay him to say that, but when I'm telling him that this is the true culture according to their values of TWC, it's now he's seeing it. He walked in his room last night and was like, "Oh, they got me stuff." I'm like, "Bro, I said, just what they do."
Yeah.
And so it's what you do because it's who you are.
Yeah.
Again, going back to my point, you're not just putting it on to impress or to flatter.
Right.
It's who you are because you're an honorable person. You don't just honor just because you put it on. You honor because you're honorable.
Right.
So you guys are honoring and you're hospitable, not because it's just something that you put on, you clock in, clock out. Yeah. You honor and you're hospitable and you're service oriented because it's simply who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And so we don't take breaks from that. And there is a blessing that comes with the honor that we speak of.
100%.
We don't do it solely for the blessing. We don't do it. Let me rephrase that. We don't do it for the blessing. We do it to serve others, to honor God first and foremost, and to serve others, to reach others. But there is an exchange. Honor is reciprocal, right? Because it's the currency of the kingdom.
Right.
It's incredible to me how, we don't want to be broke on earth, but a lot of us are broke in heaven. Yeah. Because we have no currency that comes by the way of honor. And so you'll always limit your capacity, you limit your potential, limit your reach if you're a person of dishonor. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything you say. I can still honor and disagree, right? I can still honor and even understand and empathize where you're coming from. But that doesn't mean that I have to agree. That's where we don't have to go this route, but that's where we get lost in this political game, is that we're dishonoring who isn't or who is in charge. Even, we dishonor when we disagree, and that's just not kingdom.
Right.
We can still honor the seat, right? And but vastly disagree with certain things. But kingdom people, man, especially social media nowadays, I see so much dishonor, disrespect, messiness, disorder, dysfunction, toxicity, primarily from kingdom people. Here's a little quick side thought. Shout out to all you waiters and waitresses at restaurants. You know who the worst tippers are? Man, that Sunday afternoon crowd back in the day when I didn't love Jesus. Oh, I would wait tables, man, and I would not want to work on Sundays because church folk be the worst tippers.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's not honorable, man. It's not operating with kingdom hospitality, with kingdom service. We ought to be the best tippers. We ought to be the most generous. Like, bro, if you don't tip, like, I ain't trying to be seen with you, because that's not a representation of what I stand for. That makes sense. Now, if you can't afford it and I'm buying, like, that's whatever. There's maybe some exceptions there, and I'll cover you. But my point is, man, honors the currency, excellence honors God, and reaches all, and that's just what we are called to. That's who we're called to be, and that's what we're called to do.
I love it, bro. I really enjoyed this conversation. We just ran out of time, but
yeah, man,
you just ended it with some amazing final thoughts. Like, I hate it because we do it every time. You say you spark something, and I'm like, oh, let me grasp that, let me bring it back. But man, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing the wisdom that you've had over the years of being in ministry, but not just in ministry, but just life in general. I think it's an honor in the sense of, and hear me when I say this, but it's a blessing to be able to know that someone would want others to learn from their mistakes. Say, this is where I messed up. You don't have to be this way. Let me show you. And I think that is one of the most honorable things I've ever seen, because it's not selfish. Selfish people would say, figure it out your own. Right. I had to figure it out on my own. I had to do it on my own. So I really appreciate everything that you shared today. I'm excited for tonight.
Come on, man.
Bro, it's going to be good.
Thank you for having me on this once again, brother.
Absolutely.
I have so much love and respect for you. I think you're just one of the greatest leaders of our time. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, brother. Well, with that being said, everyone, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Again, I want to encourage you real quick before you guys head out. Make sure that you guys like, share, subscribe. Again, if you're not consuming this on YouTube, I'd highly encourage you head over to our YouTube channel. Check it out. We got some amazing content. But till next time, we love you guys so much. See you then.
Hey everyone, Hunter Turnbow here, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us for Corner Talk Podcast. I hope that it encouraged you and empowered you. Make sure that you guys share this with someone because hopefully it can encourage them and empower them as well. But till next time, we love you guys so much.